The Sterling family's monthly meetings were always an exercise in psychological warfare, but this one promised to be particularly brutal. I sat in my usual corner of the massive penthouse living room, watching my siblings compete for who could flaunt their wealth most obviously. Just closed on another vacation home in Aspen, my older brother Marcus announced, adjusting his Rolex. Right next to the Kardashians' place. My sister Vanessa rolled her eyes, her diamond earrings catching the light. Please. Everyone knows Aspen is passé. Thomas and I just bought a villa in St. Tropez. The neighbors are actual royalty. I sipped my water, hiding my smile behind the glass. If they only knew about the real estate empire I'd built right under their noses. Diana, my mother's sharp voice cut through my thoughts. Are you even listening? Marcus asked about your living situation. Here we go. The reason for today's special meeting. What about it? I asked calmly. Well, Marcus leaned forward, fake concern plastered across his face. We couldn't help but notice you're still renting that tiny apartment in Brooklyn. In that old building on Monroe Street. The Monroe Street building. My first major acquisition, though they didn't know that. To them, I was just a tenant in the pre-war building I actually owned through my company Phoenix Properties. I like my apartment, I said simply. Vanessa let out an exaggerated sigh. Darling, you're 32. Don't you think it's time to grow up? Buy some real property. I thought about my real estate portfolio. Over $2 billion in assets, including the luxury high-rise where this very meeting was taking place. Sterling Tower, pride of the family, named after our great-grandfather who built it. They had no idea that 6 months ago, through a complex series of shell companies, I'd become their landlord. Not everyone has your advantages, Mom said delicately, as if poverty might be contagious. Some of us have to be practical. By advantages, she meant the trust funds my siblings had burned through, the endless bailouts from Dad, the family connections they'd exploited. I'd refused all of it, walking away at 22 with nothing but my real estate license and a dream. I'm doing fine, I assured them. Fine. Marcus scoffed. You can't even afford to buy a house. Meanwhile, I'm closing million-dollar deals left and right. Dad finally looked up from his phone. Now, Marcus. Not everyone has your business acumen. Diana chose her path. My path. They thought I spent my days showing cheap rentals to college students, scraping by on commissions. They had no idea that Diana Sterling, the family disappointment, was actually DS Phoenix, the mysterious real estate mogul who'd been systematically buying up prime Manhattan properties for the past decade. Speaking of business, Vanessa chimed in, have you heard about the Monroe Street situation? Apparently, some developer bought the whole block. They're probably going to tear down that dump Diana lives in. I controlled my expression carefully. The developer was me, and I had no plans to tear down anything. The building was a gem with pre-war details and rent-stabilized units housing families who'd lived there for generations. I was actually in the middle of a historically sensitive renovation. Really? I feigned concern. I hadn't heard. Well, you wouldn't, would you? Marcus smirked. These big real estate deals are a bit out of your league. But don't worry, when you get evicted, you can always move back home. Mom brightened at this idea. Yes. We could help you find a proper job, introduce you to some suitable men. I'm happy with my work, I cut in. And my apartment is fine. Darling, Vanessa reached over to pat my hand condescendingly, you can't spend your whole life being ordinary. The Sterling name used to mean something in this city. It still did, just not the way they thought. DS Phoenix had become legendary in real estate circles, known for acquiring prestigious properties while maintaining their character and protecting long-term tenants. The opposite of my siblings' flashy, destructive development projects. Actually, Dad set down his phone, that's partly why we called this meeting. The board is concerned about the new owner of Sterling Tower. Here it was. What do you mean? I asked innocently. Some company called Phoenix Properties bought a controlling interest 6 months ago, he explained. Very mysterious. No one seems to know who's behind it. Probably some foreign investor, Marcus declared confidently. These overseas billionaires love trophy properties. If they only knew that their mysterious foreign billionaire was sitting right here in Target jeans and a 10-year-old sweater. The thing is, Dad continued, they're raising questions about some of our creative accounting practices. Creative accounting. Like the way Marcus embezzled from the maintenance fund to pay for his Aspen house. Or how Vanessa had been charging her shopping sprees as building improvements. I'm sure it's nothing serious, Mom said quickly. The Sterling name still carries weight. Once we explain. That's just it, Dad interrupted. This Phoenix person doesn't seem impressed by names. They're demanding a full audit. I watched my siblings exchange nervous glances. An audit would reveal all sorts of interesting activities. Maybe Diana could help, Vanessa suggested suddenly. She knows the building works in real estate. Maybe she could talk to the management company? They all turned to look at me with newfound interest. Amazing how quickly I went from embarrassment to potential resource. I don't really handle large commercial properties, I demurred. My work is more modest. God, you're useless, Marcus exploded. Can't even help your own family. No wonder you can't afford a down payment. Mom shot him a quelling look, but I caught her slight nod of agreement. Even Dad, who occasionally showed glimmers of guilt about how they treated me, just returned to his phone. Little did they know I was about to help them, just not in the way they expected. Tomorrow morning, Phoenix Properties would announce its first major policy changes for Sterling Tower. No more creative accounting. No more nepotistic contracts. No more using the building's resources as a family piggy bank. I glanced around the luxury penthouse, taking in the artwork bought with maintenance funds, the furniture charged to the building's account, the designer fixtures that somehow cost 3 times market rate when Vanessa's husband's company installed them. Yes, tomorrow would be very interesting indeed. Well, I stood up, smoothing my old jeans. I should get going. Some of us have to work early tomorrow. Of course, Vanessa smirked. Those rent-controlled apartments won't show themselves. I picked up my battered messenger bag, the one containing documents worth more than everything my siblings owned combined. Oh, Diana, Mom called as I reached the door. Next time, do try to dress more appropriately for a family meeting. Appearances matter. I smiled, thinking of the designer outfit already laid out for tomorrow's board meeting. Don't worry, Mom. Tomorrow, I promise to dress exactly the way a Sterling should. They had no idea just how appropriate my appearance would be. Because tomorrow they'd finally meet the mysterious DS Phoenix, and realize that the daughter they'd dismissed had become the one person who could destroy them all. The next morning I stood in my real office, the entire top floor of a sleek downtown building, and prepared for the moment I'd been planning for months. My assistant Emma handed me a coffee and a final update. The Sterling Tower board is assembled in the main conference room, she reported. Your family arrived early, trying to butter up the other members. I smiled, picturing their desperate networking. And the audit reports? All printed and distributed. The forensic accountants found even more than we expected. She hesitated. Are you sure you want to do this? Once you reveal yourself. It's time, I said firmly. They need to learn that actions have consequences. I checked my reflection in the window. Gone were the shabby jeans and old sweater. Today I wore a perfectly tailored Chanel suit, classic, elegant, powerful. The kind of outfit my mother always wanted me to wear, though not quite in the circumstances she'd imagined. The press release about Phoenix Properties' true ownership goes live in 20 minutes, Emma reminded me. Once that hits, there's no going back. I nodded, picking up my briefcase. Sometimes going forward is more important than going back. The Sterling Tower's boardroom fell silent as I walked in. My family sat at one end of the long table, looking considerably less polished than usual. Clearly, the news about the audit had disrupted their beauty sleep. Who are you? Marcus demanded. This is a private board meeting. I took my time settling into the chair at the head of the table. I'm DS Phoenix, owner of this building and several others your family has borrowed against. Mom's face went pale. Vanessa's mouth fell open in a most unladylike way. Dad just stared, his usual composure cracking. Diana, he whispered. Hello, Dad. I opened my briefcase and began distributing folders. Shall we discuss the audit findings? This is ridiculous, Marcus sputtered. You can't be Phoenix. You're just what? I asked calmly. The family disappointment? The one who couldn't afford a down payment? The one who lives in that dump on Monroe Street? But Vanessa's voice shook. But you're poor. You show cheap apartments. You wear Target. I work, I corrected her. And I built something real, not just a facade funded by other people's money. The other board members were watching with fascinated horror as the mighty Sterling family crumbled in real time. These folders, I continued professionally, contain detailed reports of financial irregularities involving Sterling Towers accounts. Marcus, would you like to explain the $2 million in maintenance expenses that somehow funded your Aspen house? He went from red to white so fast I worried he might faint. Or perhaps Vanessa can elaborate on how her husband's company charged triple market rate for basic repairs? You're going to expose your own family? Mom asked incredulously. No, I said quietly. You exposed yourselves. I'm just providing consequences. Dad finally found his voice. Diana, please. We can explain. Save it. I held up my hand. I've watched for years as you treated this building, great-grandfather's legacy, like your personal ATM. While you mocked my cheap apartment, I was building a real estate empire based on integrity and actual value. But why? Vanessa whispered. Why pretend to be poor? I never pretended anything. I lived within my means, worked hard, and invested wisely. You just assumed that because I didn't flaunt wealth, I didn't have any. The Monroe Street building, Marcus said slowly. You really live there? I own it, I corrected him. Along with most of that block. And no, I'm not tearing it down. Some of us actually care about more than just profit. Just then, phones around the table started buzzing. The press release had dropped. Phoenix Properties reveals true identity, one board member read aloud. Diana Sterling, a estranged daughter of the Sterling real estate family, announced as owner of billion-dollar portfolio. Mom grabbed her phone, scrolling frantically. $2 billion in assets. Ranked among top developers. Known for ethical business practices and historic preservation. This is going to destroy us, Vanessa moaned. No, I said firmly. This is going to save you from yourselves. Starting today, Sterling Tower operates legitimately. No more creative accounting, no more inflated contracts, no more treating the building's accounts like your trust funds. And if we refuse? Marcus challenged, though his voice lacked its usual confidence. I smiled. Then I'll be happy to share these audit reports with the relevant authorities. I'm sure they'd be very interested in some of these transactions. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. What do you want? Dad asked finally. I want you to remember what the Sterling name used to mean, I said, looking each of them in the eye. Great-grandfather built this tower with integrity, not fraud. He created homes and businesses, not just profit centers. I stood up, gathering my papers. You have a choice. Work with me to restore that legacy or find somewhere else to live. I hear there are some lovely rentals in Brooklyn. Diana, wait. Dad's voice stopped me at the door. I was wrong about you. Yes, I agreed simply. You were. The aftermath was exactly what you'd expect. The press had a field day with the story of the secret billionaire who'd outmaneuvered her own family. Mom had to cancel her country club membership, too humiliated to face her social circle. Vanessa's husband's contracting company went under once the audit details leaked. But some good came from it too. Marcus, faced with actual consequences for the first time in his life, enrolled in business school to learn how to manage property legitimately. Vanessa started volunteering at a homeless shelter, discovering that helping others was more fulfilling than shopping. Dad? He asked to learn the business properly, this time from me. 6 months later, I sat in my Monroe Street apartment. Yes, I kept it, looking over the latest Sterling Tower reports. The building was thriving under honest management. Long-term tenants no longer feared eviction. Small businesses in the retail spaces were growing. A knock at the door interrupted my work. It was Mom, looking oddly subdued in casual clothes. I got your invitation to the holiday party, she said hesitantly. In the Monroe Street building's courtyard? I nodded. Every year, I hosted a celebration for the building's residents, families who'd lived there for generations, artists, small business owners. The real heart of New York. It's not quite your usual style, I said carefully. No, she agreed, looking around my comfortable but modest apartment. But I'm learning that style isn't everything. She picked up a framed photo from my desk. Me at my real estate license graduation, young and determined. I never asked why you chose this path. Because I wanted to build something real, I said simply. Not just buy things and show them off. And now you own more than all of us combined, she said with a hint of irony. I control more, I corrected her. But ownership isn't the point. What matters is what you do with it. She nodded slowly. Will you teach me? Not about being rich, I know how to do that. But about building something real? I studied her face, seeing genuine humility there for the first time in my life. Come to the holiday party, I said finally. Meet the families who've lived here for 50 years. Listen to their stories. That's where real value begins. After she left, I walked to my window looking out over the city I'd quietly conquered. Sterling Tower gleamed in the distance, no longer a symbol of family corruption but of redemption. The Monroe Street building hummed with life below me, its pre-war charm preserved for future generations. My phone buzzed with investment opportunities, acquisition offers, meeting requests. DS Phoenix was in high demand these days. But I kept my office hours reasonable, my lifestyle modest, my focus on creating value rather than just wealth. Because sometimes success isn't about proving your worth to others. It's about building something worthwhile despite them. Sometimes the one they mock becomes the one they must answer to. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply becoming exactly who you were meant to be. A week later, at the Monroe Street building's holiday party, I watched my family trying to navigate this new world. Mom chatting with Mrs. Rodriguez, who'd lived here 40 years. Marcus learning about the building's history from Mr. Chin, our oldest resident. Vanessa helping kids decorate cookies at the community table. They were learning slowly that real wealth isn't about what you own. It's about what you build, what you preserve, what you make better. Dad found me by the punch bowl looking thoughtful. You know, he said quietly, your great-grandfather started just like this. Caring about buildings and people, not just profits. I nodded. I know. I found his old journals in the Monroe Street building's basement. He wrote about creating homes, not just properties. We forgot that somewhere along the way, Dad admitted. Got caught up in appearances, in competing with each other. It's not too late to remember, I said, watching the party unfold. That's why I didn't expose everything, why I gave you all a chance to change. He looked at me with new respect. You could have destroyed us. That was never the goal, I smiled. The goal was to build something lasting. Something real. As the evening wound down, I stood in the courtyard, fairy lights twinkling overhead, listening to the mix of languages and laughter that made New York special. My family had finally seen me. Really seen me, but more importantly they were starting to see what mattered. Success isn't just about the buildings you own or the deals you close. It's about the communities you protect, the legacies you preserve, the value you create that lasts beyond yourself. And sometimes the greatest achievement isn't in proving them wrong. It's in showing them a better way to be right.